The role of you as the owner is to find where the biggest constraint in the business is. You didn't go into this crazy obscure niche where you can't delegate. We have to delegate the thing that we are the best at, that's taking the most amount of our time, so that we can focus on mastering the next skill set, the next greatest constraint in the business, and then handing that off.
Any time spent working on anything else is a waste of time. You need to address the biggest bottleneck first. You solve that, then you move on to the next big bottleneck. You might have the right constraint, but you might have the wrong solution. Or you have the right solution, but it's the wrong restraint.
Everyone wants to hit $10,000 a month. Everyone wants to hit, 7 figures a year, but they're not looking at the most important thing. And so every single month, you should be tracking these metrics. And at the end of every single month, you should be assessing how good of a job did you do this month and where's the greatest constraint. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're talking about Ben's monumental achievement where he hit $236,000 in revenue inside of his practice. Now, most cash PTs that are out there that boast they're doing 7 figures, they're doing it without any profit. And then they come to us trying to solve their profit problem. Ben is doing over $200,000 a month while maintaining a 35% profit margin, which is absolutely incredible. Today, we're going to celebrate him, give him some love in the comments. But most importantly, we're going to talk about the 3 scaling secrets that you need to know that most PTs overlook to keep them stuck inside of their practices. So Ben, dude, congratulations, first of all.
Thanks. It feels great. And it's something that, it's been 6 years. We've done over 200,000 before, but this is our record month for sure. So I think we'll beat this again in April based on what's looking like. So that's the fun part. It's not, it won't just be a one-off type thing. This is something that we should actually beat next month. Based on how things are projected there too.
So I want to make this clear for everybody. Ben didn't run a promo, didn't do anything like that. This is just pure raw growth from doing things right and doing things consistently. So today we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about buying back your time. What's the appropriate way to build a team and offload things in the right sequence, okay? And how to determine what that sequence is for you. We're going to talk about focus, following one course until success, how to identify the right constraint, work on the right thing at the right time. And then number 3 is leadership, because one of the biggest things that most PTs struggle with as they're building their teams is retaining their talent. And that is something that, we have a great framework for. Ben is a world-class culture where people are, leaving even higher paying jobs to come be a part of what he has built at ProKinetic. So today we're going to break down all 3 of those things. Let's start with buying back your time, Ben. So let's go back a couple of years when you first started hiring. Let's talk about who your first hires were and why you did them.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to each, whether you hire a front desk or you hire a physical therapist. I'll give you the pros and cons of each and what I did, and then if I would do anything different. Long story short, would not do anything different. I hired on PT first. So the reason being is the first phone call is the lifeline, the pulse of your business. And if you hand that off to a front desk, you really put your business at jeopardy a little bit. And so you also want to make sure that you have it dialed in before you hand it off to somebody. Usually people are hiring, if they're doing it right, they're hiring within the first year of being in business. I can make an argument that most people do not have the phone script perfected even after a year, unless they've been through formal coaching throughout the entirety of the first year. Most people don't do formal coaching until like that year mark when they were getting ready to hire. So many people join the mastermind and the program when they are hiring their first PT, when they want to hire their first PT, and they come to find out that actually their phone script is something that needs to be dialed in first, and that's the low hanging fruit, right? So long story short, I hired on a PT first. I think it's much easier to train a physical therapist than it is to train a front desk. It's much easier for me to get my time back. And it also allowed me to do over 1,000 phone calls. And so I was very proficient at it. I knew what the metrics should be. I knew what the standards should be. And I knew, because I had everything dialed in from a phone call perspective, on how to teach somebody effectively too. Most people bring on a front desk, they're going to solve my conversion issues. Nobody's going to convert any higher than you are. And so you need to make sure that is optimized before you hand off.
Completely agree. One of the greatest lessons that I think you and I have made over the last year, just as leaders, is we can't delegate things that we don't yet have systems and processes behind and the skills to be able to effectively train someone on it. You'll never successfully delegate anything until you become a master of it. And most people, like, they read Buy Back Your Time, or they just hear about, like, yeah, the CEO shouldn't have to do any of this stuff. They kind of put themselves on this pedestal where they think they're too good to do some like lower level stuff. But the thing is, as the owner, your job is to airdrop yourself into whatever area of the business is suffering the most. That is the most important thing, mastering that system. Then when you have the process, when you have the KPIs, when you have the skills to train someone, that's when you hand it off. And a lot of people are sabotaging their own growth because they're refusing to develop these skills, these business skills that would allow them to A, delegate effectively, but B, develop the robust skill set that makes them someone worthy of following, where you're able to actually attract and retain great talent. Because if you don't have the skills to be able to teach and help improve other people's skill sets, they're not going to stick with you very long. And I think that's something that you've done an incredible job of doing. Like, you've never complained about having to learn something new. Everything that pops up that's challenging, you just face it head on. That's really what it takes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's you give up power too. If you like bring somebody on and you don't know how to do what you're asking them to do, and you ask them to build it out, they build it out. You don't know exactly what the intricate
Yeah.
details of it are. They leave. Now you lost a big core part of your business because they built it, right? Not necessarily you, and you don't know the intricate understandings of how to do it.
One of our clients, Zaki, he took us out to dinner when we were in Las Vegas at one of Alex Hormozzi's events. And it was an incredible dinner. That dude is so well connected. We got comped everything at this really, really nice, like, bougie dinner, which is really, really cool. They were insistent that we get one of everything, basically. Really cool. But one of the things that he and I were talking about that's so amazing that you did from the very beginning, that usually people take months to figure out, is you let go of the thing that you were the best at immediately. And as a CEO, you quickly learn as you build your business is that whatever you're the best at becomes the biggest constraint in the business. Like, it's always the owner that's in the way of growth. And you let go of PT immediately, and you weren't ashamed around knowing that, hey, I'm hiring a PT that is definitely like better than me at this. And you built a team of people who are truly like the best at what it is that they do by delegating in the way that you've been doing it since day one.
Yeah, that's the biggest bottleneck that people see it or do. They just cling to patient care. They just cling to it. And I understand, like, if you enjoy doing it to a certain extent, but just know that you are sabotaging your business. You're slowing down the growth of your business. And so just make sure that your love for treating has to outweigh the growth of your business. No one has to be sacrificed a little bit. And that is where people struggle the most, for sure, is holding on to patient care, thinking nobody else can treat like they can. Most likely people
I
can
would
treat
say on
better
the
than you
other
can,
side of that
you know?
spectrum, the other part of that equation is you didn't go into this crazy obscure niche where you can't delegate now. Like, a lot of people stressing over picking the right niche because they're told that they need to niche down, but not realizing it's like, in the beginning, you don't need a niche down. You need to make money, and you need to choose almost like the more general population because it's the lowest hanging fruit to get cash flow in the door, so that you can then delegate when you have a full schedule to, you know, a more general kind of PT. And then you can reinvest those like profits and effort and time going after the population that you really, truly like want to work with, if that's what you want to do. But I think you were able to scale so effectively because you just focused on active adults.
Yeah. Just people, if they were active, people are active. They enjoy being active.
Right.
We can help them.
Right. It's hard to find a rock climbing specialist PT to hire. Okay. Okay. So for everyone listening, that's number one. Okay. We have to delegate the thing that we are the best at, that's taking the most amount of our time, so that we can focus on mastering the next skill set, the next greatest constraint in the business, and then handing that off. I mean, for Ben, how long did it take you before you were pretty much out of patient care? And then how long did it take you to get out of admin work?
It took me about a year and a half, right on 2 year mark, to get out of patient care altogether. I practiced as a PT for 2 years and retired.
When was the last time you treated a patient, Ben?
It's been 4 years, 4 or 5 years, like formally. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. I've not treated more than I've treated as a licensed PT at this point. So, and then front desk stuff, like doing sales calls and stuff, that took me about another year after being out of formal patient care altogether. So about 3 years, it took me about 3 years to get out of both patient care and
And
front desk.
because you've mastered those systems, even when you have like retention problems, it's not like the world is ending. You can train someone up very quickly on it because you have that system, you have that process. Like right now, you're plugging yourself into the front end of the business and rebuilding the entire front end. And that's what most people do. They think they're too good to kind of go back and plug themselves into the part of the business that's weak and restructure and rebuild so you can retrain.
Yeah, we have two. Yeah, we have two. For context, guys, we have two physical therapists that are struggling with sales that we recently brought on, and so we're revamping our onboarding a little bit to make it. We've had over 15, 20 PTs go through this sales and the onboarding successfully. These two have struggled, and we're just going to try. We're making our sales process like dummy proof, where you can't mess it up. And you don't have to have all like memorization. And so, long story short, what Jordan's talking about is we're revamping a little bit of our sales process for PTs during the in-person eval, where you can't mess it up in that framework.
Right. So the takeaway from that is delegate the thing that you're the best at first to get the most amount of time back. And then the role of you as the owner is to find where the biggest constraint in the business is and airdrop yourself in there and then work in it yourself until you have a repeatable process, KPIs, and the skill set to be able to effectively delegate it, where it's like, hey, I have this system. I just need someone that won't break it, rather than finding someone who's going to build it for you, because you'll never grow that way. Perfect segue into point number 2, which is identifying the right constraints. Everyone is just effing winging it every single day, being reactive and not having any focus on what's actually going to move the needle in their business. So do you have any tales or stories to share with us on what helped you become the operator that you are today?
Yeah, so I mean, theory of constraints just means that essentially, if you're working on, there's always one main bottleneck. Yes, there can be multiple bottlenecks, but there's always the one that's the biggest. Any time spent working on anything else is a waste of time. You need to address the biggest bottleneck first. You solve that, then you move on to the next big bottleneck. Solve that, move on. That's all business is in most simplest terms. And so an example of somebody like early on, a lot of times they think their constraint is they just need more leads, but patients are coming in for 3 or 4 visits on average. But they don't know patients are only coming in for 3 or 4 on average because they're not tracking numbers, right? So you need to track your numbers to be able to identify what the bottleneck is first and foremost. And so we just see people think that they need more leads. And I just did this on our mastermind call, and like everybody, there were so many people on there, their mind was just blown on, like, I don't need more leads. I need to retain more leads I have. So for example, on average, patients complete 9 visits with us at ProKinetics. If patients were to only complete 4.5, I need twice as many leads. Okay. So it's much easier to retain patients, double your retention length, than find double the evals. I promise you that. Right. So that is the bit, like, that's an example of like a constraint. Identifying the right constraint, and then solving it with the right solution. Right. You might have the right constraint, but you might have the wrong solution, or you have the right solution, but it's the wrong restraint. Right? You need to get both of those to happen.
It's the main metric that people like go for is revenue, and that's why most people get screwed, because everyone wants to hit $10,000 a month. Everyone wants to hit 7 figures a year, but they're not looking at the most important thing, which is at the end of the day, profit. And so the metric that everyone should be tracking, that I know you're not right now, is your cost per acquisition to LTV ratio, the ratio between how much you have to spend to acquire one lead and how much the average person spends with you. Most of you are stuck and not growing in your practice because it's basically 1-to-1. You're basically breaking even. At any given time, you should be either optimizing your cost per acquisition or your LTV to your patients. And every single quarter, one of those things should be the core focus. And then that's going to help you break down to like, where is the micro, like the cost per acquisition to LTV. That's like the macro thing you're looking at. And that's going to help you break down to the micro of like, okay, cost per acquisition is actually the problem. So is it it a lead problem or a booking problem or a sales problem? And then the lifetime value is, what kind of retention issues do we have? How many referrals are we pulling in from each one of the clients that we're getting? And so that's really what people need to be looking at. So for tracking metrics, Ben, when did you start doing that? And what are the most important ones that people need to do? What are the processes they need to follow to make sure they're actually tracking their metrics?
Yeah, I started tracking metrics about 6 months in, which would have started sooner. But looking back, that's actually way faster than most people do.
Yeah.
So looking back, I'm happy with that. But again, wish I would have started sooner. If I could pick like 3 metrics that are to track, that's the thing too, is like give you guys too many metrics, you get overwhelmed and you'll get paralysis by analysis. But I'd pick 3 to start with. It would be, what's my initial phone conversion rate or phone conversion rate? What is my initial evaluation conversion rate? What's my average visit per plan of care? Bonus would be LTV, like how much is somebody spending with us. But if you calculate your average visit per plan of care, you easily get your LTV. You just take what are you generating per hour on average times the length of their plan of care. So like for us, ours is $231 per hour is what we generate times 9. That's what our LTV is, right? So if you know what you're charging and you know what your average visit per plan of care is, you just times it 2 and you get your LTV on that. So those would be the 3 that I'd start tracking right away.
Right. And so every single month you should be tracking these metrics. And at the end of every single month, you should be assessing how good of a job did you do this month and where's the greatest constraint. And then I would recommend don't even guess at what those constraints are. Actually do the math. We do mini financial forecasts whenever we're putting together a new monthly or quarterly plan of like, okay, if we increase the number of leads by this much, with this booking rate, this conversion rate, and this LTV, here's what our revenue and our profit would look like if we increase leads by this much. Take a look at what that top line and bottom line number is with that projection, and then compare that to, okay, if leads stay the same, but our conversion rate increases by 5-10%, what would that lead to? And then each of your hypotheses on what you think you should be working on next, actually project it out over the next month or quarter to figure out which one of these is going to improve top line revenue and bottom line profit, and then choose that plan. That's how you decide through simple math what is the right course of action for the business, and always choose the one that is the simplest and has the greatest upside potential for growth. And that's how we decide. It's like, okay, here's the biggest problem, and then here's how we verify that this is actually the biggest problem in the business. And then you just repeatedly do that every single month.
Yeah, that's simple.
Right. Super easy, but most people don't do it. I don't know why. Any guesses on why?
I think just being PTs, we just want to do patient care, help people. We don't realize that tracking numbers is going to help us do that, be able to help more people. And we're just not naturally, PTs just aren't naturally numbers and numbers oriented.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit because they love working on patient. They love the kind of using the scientific method to systematically help someone improve their life. But it's like your business is the exact same as treating a patient. Okay. You assess the entire thing, figure out what you think the root cause is, and then you start working on it. And that is all running a business is, except helping your business is going to help thousands more patients than just focusing on one patient ever.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm. So start treating your business like a patient and stop winging it every single day. Okay. So that's number 2, focus. And an acronym that I'd recommend writing down for your business is focus. Follow one course until success. Once you identify the constraint that it represents the greatest upside potential for the business, develop a plan for improving that metric, and then do not stop until you are successful overcoming that constraint, and then work on the next thing. Okay. Nothing else matters until you solve that one constraint. Stay focused. Now, number 3 is leadership and retention. Okay. Not retaining your employees is going to be the most expensive mistake you ever make. So you want to talk to that a little bit, Ben?
Yeah. So the main thing when it comes to, a lot of times people think that it's pay what keeps people around. It plays a factor, but it really became apparent when that's just not the case. I've had a lot of, I'd say probably about 35% of the PTs that work for me took a pay cut to work for me. They were making a lot more at Kaiser, which is a large medical hospital system out on the West Coast for those that aren't familiar. And they can pay their PTs astronomically high amounts because they're not trying to make money off of PT. They can lean on surgery. They can lean on all these other departments. And so, but what Kaiser can't do is like, while we can't compete with Kaiser on price because they don't need to make a profit on PT, they're not trying to make a profit there. They can't compete with us on how we deliver care and the culture and what we do and the environment and the patients that we help. And so that's where you want to stand out is your culture. What types of patients can they help with, the model in which they can treat. That's where you win people over initially. That's what gets PTs in the door. for. And then why people stay is because of a good culture. They enjoy what they do. They enjoy the patients that they work with, and that there's a lot of growth potential as well. People that work at ProKinetics, the biggest thing that is across the board, they're very growth oriented. And that's where I've lost people at the beginning. Was I didn't show them a clear path of what does growth look like within the practice. And if you're attracting the right people, they're going to be very growth oriented. And if you don't give them a path to what growth looks like and make that very clear, they're going to go elsewhere, because that's the people that you should be attracting. And that's who we were attracting. We need to do a better job of outlining what that looks like. Now we got dialed in, right? Yep. But that's a big constraint for the types of PTs that we attract.
Right. You will rarely attract, you'll never retain an employee who has a bigger vision than you. And so if you're just getting in this game to make more money, to have some more time, and you just want to hire one PT and get your time back, guess what? You're not going to retain that PT because they see that there's no growth potential for them there. There's no leadership opportunities that are going to be created for themselves. And so they're eventually going to go their own way. And if you aren't a person that is constantly pouring into your team, helping them become better, well, they're going to go somewhere else. And so you need to have a vision that is big enough to fit their vision for themselves inside of. And so, Ben, I think like what you had that a lot of people don't is like you always envision building a multi-7-figure clinic. And so when you're hiring, you're able to say, it's like, what do you want for your future? Like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? And so because you have that vision, you can say, well, it's like, great. Well, if you want to be a leadership position, that means we need to get our current revenue to this level, which means we're going to need to hire more staff. And when we hire more staff, more leadership opportunities are going to open. So they can see that roadmap and that progression of their career. And the key to getting that is helping achieve the business's vision. And that's how you get everyone aligned in one direction.
100%. And it's also that I got to have the bigger mission behind it too. Like for us, like we don't want to just change the physical therapy profession. We want to change healthcare as a whole. And we do that by leading the charge on what cash-based is possible in the cash-based setting and PT, and get more clinics following our systems and implementing our systems so we can make an impact, not just in the 3 locations we have, but across all locations, a lot across major cities and areas. We've got over 100 clients in 100 different areas. Yep. And so we're making ProKinetics systems are making an impact across the entire US. And that's what our mission is to keep pushing ProKinetics forward and leading the charge on what's possible in the cash-based world, so we can pass this down and help hundreds of thousands of patients indirectly. But because we have the systems we have.
Right. And I think everyone says they have that vision and that mission, but it's really just a bullshit statement that's just like sitting on their website. So Ben, talk to everyone about how we incorporate that culture and make that vision and that mission actually something that people live by and think about on an ongoing basis. Because if you just say it once during onboarding, that's not really a mission or a vision. That's just some marketing garbage.
Yep. So every Friday we do a Friday shout outs. So we have our culture and our core values. Core values are your culture. And so every Friday we give shout outs to each other. Everybody participates on one thing that they saw somebody do that emulated our core values and our mission, why we do what we do. So it's reminded, it's not just like stated on a weekly basis. It's something they have to consciously think about and look out for throughout the entire week of things that somebody else is doing or is done throughout the week that emulated our culture and our mission, what we do.
Yep, 100%. So getting the team involved in supporting the values that create that vision and that mission, talking about the vision and mission on a monthly, quarterly basis with your team, and actually measuring your progress to actually achieving it, and then awarding people who participate in that culture. And like last month, we sent Chris on our team like a month's worth of like steak and frozen meat. We bought him like half a cow, and he was over the moon about it. But everyone who participates in the core values and nominating one another, we basically throw that all into a raffle. And then whoever wins that raffle at the end of the month gets the Team Member of the Month award, and we give them some sort of cool gift. And it's the coolest meeting we have every single month to get people excited about being on our team. And that's why, and you're able to attract the absolute best of the best in your business who are now building the business for you and happy to do that. And same over here at Clinical Marketer. It's why, 7-figure business owners who don't need money are coming to be a part of our team and our culture to help our clients win, because the impact that we're having and the vision and mission we have. And so those are the 3 keys: buying back your time in the order of which what you're spending the most time on, probably the thing you're the best at, and then plugging yourself into the next biggest problem until it's systematized that you can then hand it off. Number 2 is tracking your numbers. So every month, every every week, every day. You know what the constraint is, and then staying focused, following one course until success, and not getting distracted by all the other crap. Forecasting out, here's all the things that I could do to improve the business, which one has the best top line and bottom line potential. And then lastly, leadership. Okay, if you're not someone worth following, you're not going to attract A players. Every single time I ask, like when someone's like, I want to build a team, I'm like, do you want to attract the best people? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, well, who are you to deserve the attention and the respect of those A players? Why would they want to come work for you? Who are you being? What are the processes you have? What's the vision that you have? Anything to layer on top of that, Ben?
No, you have to become a person worth following. What are you doing throughout the day? Are you waking up on time? Are you exercising regularly? Are you continuously learning? Like, are you doing all these things that 99% of other people aren't doing? Because if you aren't, it's gonna be harder to attract people that you want to be attracting.
Right. That's all the time we have for today, folks. So make sure to give Ben some love inside the comments. He just did a $236,000 month at a 35% profit margin without any promotions or anything fancy, just good business. So give him some love in the comments. And then if you have questions on buying back your time, about tracking your metrics, identifying constraints, or leading a team and building a team that builds the business for you, drop them in the comments. We'd love to do another episode on your particular questions. And if you got value out of this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and to the podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody.
So yes.